Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Monday, second day of a 7-day week, and we are in preparation for the Miami USGP this weekend. Now, if you don't know, this weekend will indeed be the first USGP of the calendar season. But not only that, it will be our next sprint race. All right, so as it follows, we will have FP1 Friday. We will have the sprint quali as well this Friday. Then we will have the sprint race Saturday the following day. And then later that day on Saturday, we'll have qualifying, and then we'll have the race on Sunday. So things will seem to move a bit quick as we are missing 2 FP sessions and the qualifying. It kind of makes the week seem a little bit more condensed when it's a sprint weekend. But nevertheless, interested to see how this sprint weekend turns out. We do know the last sprint weekend, Lewis Hamilton not only get pole for sprint, but he did the first. He won the sprint race. So we'll see what happens there, as well as Ferrari have done some updates, trying to see if they got a handle on this car. But this is not about Ferrari. This is about Aston Martin. And what's going on, everybody pulling up in the chat? Miss Dino, welcome to the family and good morning to you. I see you join the Wolfpack fam. Miss Dino 88, nice to have you here. Also, Mary Beanie pulling up as always. Dave's Quattro, and we got Sylvia Witt Kelly in the house. Some of you are new to the channel, and I don't know if you wonder, why does he call her Sylvia Witt Kelly? Because she doesn't have Wick in her name. And Sylvia Witt Kelly got the name for basically a play off of John Wick. And that means if you act crazy in the chat, she will pew you ASAP. All right, so just know that. But we're here talking about some Aston Martin. We got Lance Stroll, which we probably are all in agreement that Lance Stroll is only a driver in Formula One because his dad owns the team. And at this point in time, I don't think Lance Stroll has done anything in his career that would say he's going to be a world champion or he's going to be one of the top elite drivers in Formula One. It hasn't even been debated amongst us by way of Maria Duncan that maybe Lance Stroll is kind of campaigning for his dad to finally get rid of him by his low performance. And a lot of us, including me, would love for, well, I don't want to say love. I don't like to love anything that can't love me back. I would absolutely like if Felipe Drugovich finally got his opportunity in Formula One. I think it's way overdue. It's way overdue. And I hate it for Felipe to even be in this situation with Aston Martin. Honestly, it's just not, to me, a good look. It's not a good situation. I think they're wasting his talents. I think he probably should be a bit pissed off about the situation and all of the absolute above. But I think also Williams Racing are giving Aston Martin a bit of a format that should be followed. And that format is, you cannot absolutely know how good your program may be if your drivers suck. You just don't know. We saw Williams know this by way of Logan Sargent and Alex Albon. Had it not been for Albon, Williams would have not really known in real race pace and qualifying in free practice if they were building a car that was capable of doing more. If you had 2 Logan Sargents, you wouldn't know really where your program stands because you got a driver that's being detrimental to your program. And James Vowles conducted himself in such a way that was admirable, respectful, but it was very direct. He was upfront with Logan as he was upfront with us as much as possible as the public eye. And when the time came for James Vowles to make a decision, if Williams Racing is to continue growing, it will not be with Logan Sargent, and they cut him and let him go. Aston Martin needs to cut Lance Stroll and let him go. They absolutely do. Alonso is the stronger driver. Alonso is the driver who accumulated 8 podiums. Lance Stroll hasn't done any of that since he's been Williams. Since he's been with Aston Martin, excuse me. He hasn't done any of that. And he's received some criticism. And Lance Stroll decided that he was going to respond to the criticism. And the way that Lance Stroll responded to the criticism was a bit of the way Lance Stroll drives in Formula One. It was ass. Okay, I think it would have been better for Lance Stroll to say nothing than what he said. And Lance Stroll says, if you put the McLaren drivers in a Sauber for 10 years, then they will have the most Q1 exits. Lance Stroll responds to breaking the record of the most Q1 eliminations. Lance Stroll has a record right now of the most Q1 eliminations in Formula One history. Now, I looked at this quote and I said, Lance Stroll must be delusional, or Lance Stroll must be completely lost on what he needed to say here. Mary Beanie in the super chat says, I've said this for years. Basically. Felipe Drugovich deserved a chance, and Ferrari going white for Miami. Stroll has been knocked out of Q1 75 times. That's crazy, right? So, first of all, Lance Stroll isn't in a damn Sauber. Why would he say if you put the McLaren drivers in you're not in a Sauber? Lance Stroll, you've been in an Aston Martin that has been fully capable. At one point in time, we thought a couple of seasons ago, the Aston Martin was about to take us all by surprise and by storm. It just so happened the second part of the season, the developments didn't go their way. They become stagnant. Other teams progressed and they kind of fell back. And even on that back half of that season, Alonso managed to still muster out one podium while Lance Stroll didn't muster out a damn thing. Not a damn thing, okay? So if we're being fair, we're looking at Lance Stroll. What has he done in his career? Lance Stroll has been in Formula One for 9 seasons. He's not driven a Sauber. He's had a Mercedes-powered car since he's been here. I want to say even when he was with when he was with Racing Point, that was a Mercedes-powered unit. I don't think it was Renault. But he's been Williams and Aston Martin. And since then, what has Lance Stroll done in his career? Well, this is what he's done. He's placed no higher than 10th in the Drivers' Championship standings. All right. He's also got 1 pole position in his life and only 3 podiums to smirk at, all while having 171 Grand Prix. That's what he's done. He's not a good driver. He's just not a good driver. And I think a lot of us have the opinion that Lance Stroll is clearly in that seat by way of strong nepotism. And this man, Lawrence Stroll, is allowing this to happen to the team. He's allowing this to happen. And while we sit here and go back to the team standings right now, we go to the team standings. We're looking at Williams sit nicely in 5th. Williams right now is nicely in 5th. Aston Martin is in 7th with only 10 measly points. And I do think this is going to be a situation where Aston Martin may continue to fall. I think they will continue to fall. I think, honestly, the Racing Bulls this week in Miami, I'm thinking the Racing Bulls are going to take that 7th spot and kick Aston Martin down to 8. That's where I think they're going to end up. And Gasly also could be another surprise, right? If Gasly surprises, Aston Martin kicks down and maybe Gasly gets a few points in his pocket. They could be tied for 8th and be shifted right back down to 9th. It's possible this weekend Aston Martin could fall to 9th. That's what I'm telling you. Depending on surprising Gasly, depending on the Racing Bulls with Hadjar and Lawson, it's possible that Aston Martin could fall to 9th this USGP weekend, especially with the sprint race having given you an extra helping hand of points, right? So this right here is a bad situation. It's not good. It's not looking good for them. The last time they were in Miami, We saw Alonso get 9th, and Lance Stroll was 17th. He didn't help his team at all. Lance Stroll did not help his team one bit. Lance Stroll was right here, 17th place, 0 points. Alonso managed to put himself in position to get 2 points. That's a big gap. And that gap between these two drivers is pretty average for what we see between Lance Stroll and Alonso. Unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, it just is what it is. Alonso has 0 points this season in the Drivers' Championship. 0. He has no points. Lance Stroll, by way of debacle, managed to get 10. So again, you know, we talked about this whole campaign that people have for Lewis Hamilton getting out of the sport or needing to retire. You know, there's a couple of drivers you need to knock on their door before you come knocking at a 7-time world champion who's the greatest driver in Formula One. And Fernando Alonso is one of those drivers. Lance Stroll is one of those drivers. Hulkenberg is one of those drivers. There are several drivers that you should be knocking on their door with that get out of Formula One picket sign before you go knocking on Lewis Hamilton. And let's look at something else. Let's look at something else. Because there is a situation that people have been talking about at Aston Martin, and I thought maybe it might be a situation, but then when I read it, I wasn't too sure if it was a situation more than it was somebody who works in a very methodical way that is not average for other people to see. Somebody who maybe doesn't talk a lot and is more about developing and doing a lot. And I'm not saying that his mentality or his character might be a bit standoffish, but it does, and it is proven to work. So there's been several reports about Adrian Newey, even with Red Bull. They tried to blame him for the whole situation of Yuki, and he's like, I wasn't even there. His wife come out with a tweet, he wasn't even there. And then now there's this thing that kind of comes out as a bit negative, that Adrian Newey is standoffish with Aston Martin. And so we'll bring it up right here. But it says, from day one, we made sure we prepared his working environment. They got everything ready for Adrian Newey because he should. He's going to have things that he wants and things in place. You got to remember, Adrian Newey is one of the few people that actually still draws sketches for the cars. And he's a beautiful mind. And a beautiful mind works in different ways. And geniuses are often very different than the rest of us that are not geniuses. They work in a very different way. He came in and went to meetings about the new rules, about the concepts we had worked on. Okay. And that makes complete sense. That makes complete sense. He's going to come in. He's going to understand what's going on. What are my parameters? What have you done so far? Okay. That makes sense. We explained the countdown to the first test and the first race. And we pointed out all the deadlines for submitting information for the production of this 2026 car. These are things Adrian Newey should and wants to know. Okay, what's my deadline? What's the timeline? What are we working with? What have you done? What parameters do I have to work within to build this 2026 car? All of that makes sense. It says he went straight to work with engineers to do sketches on his drawing board. He's in the design cycle to design fundamental parts of the car. 90% of the creation of a car is in the factory, and that's where we want Adrian, okay? He has his office. Everyone who walks past says that whenever they see him, he's always drawing on the whiteboard. So that means when this man's in there, he's at work. When he's in his office, he is already drawing out his sketches. Everybody knows about the red folder that Adrian Newey carries about the grid when he looks at other cars. Big shout out to 083 gifting a Wolfpack membership. You can get in our Discord this weekend for the Miami GP, and that is going to go to Bandy 1440. Big shout out to Bandy. You just got a Wolfpack membership. Join into the fam, join into the conversations, and get this in, all right? So getting back to this, big shout out 083, always big shout out. 083 is a big fundamental part of the family, man. Much love to you, bro. So here's the part that becomes striking, okay? It says, sure, he doesn't go to meetings. He doesn't answer emails. He's just putting together a fast car, and we all support that process. Well, it's not a problem if it's not a problem. If Aston Martin doesn't see this as a problem. It's not a problem. Now, I know some people could say, I know me and Maria Duncan were talking this week in the Wolves Den, which was by far probably one of the most powerful Wolves Dens that we've ever had on a personal level. Very, very, very endearing and personal and close conversations. And it was much needed for me. We talked a little bit about Formula One, but we got onto some more bigger and better and more priceless conversations within that small group that we had this weekend. I absolutely adored it. All right. But Maria Duncan brought up about this, and then I said to myself that maybe possibly it's not something Ferrari wanted to sign up for. It might have been like robbing Peter to pay Paul. If Adrian Newey was conducting himself in such a way, it might have been bad for the vibes of Ferrari. But when I read this report, I'm looking and saying that maybe not. It just comes off as a guy who says, you know what, I'm going to come in, I'm going to get to work. I'm going to learn what it is I need. I'm going to learn what it is I'm working within. I'm going to learn what it is that you have. And then I need my timeline for when this car needs to be ready. And that's what it seems like he's doing. And we really won't know if the Adrian Newey impact is going to be realized at Aston Martin until 2026, right? And there are some things there that Adrian Newey may or may not be involved in when it comes to the power unit. There may or may not be some things that Adrian Newey is going to be, whole-weightedly responsible for. But as far as the aero design of this car, Adrian Newey, I don't believe will fail. Now, how good this car will be, one can only estimate that. One can only guess at what that may be based on what he did with Red Bull and the Honda power unit, because the Honda power unit will also be there with Aston Martin and Adrian Newey. So there's a lot of familiarity that will be there for Adrian Newey to work with. He's already worked and designed a car that harnessed the Honda power unit. He's going to know how to design this car for distribution of that, including the updated electronics that will be kicked in 2026. The whole hybrid situation. This is going to be, it's supposed to be 50-50. There's a lot of talk about them trying to change said things, and I really don't agree with them changing said things, because it kind of seems like they're changing said things to facilitate a team in Red Bull racing. I'm just keeping it real. Christian Horner and Max Verstappen have been complaining the most about the new regulations to come, and I think that's because they see that they are going to be more on the back foot than they are even this season. I don't believe in Ford. I don't trust in Ford. And Red Bull have decided to, and I still believe they're going to be surviving off a lot of IP that they have collected from Honda while Honda was there. I believe that was part of the deal, that Red Bull will be able to act off certain IP, and Honda decided that they wanted to get the hell out of there, and they did. And I bet you Red Bull are kicking themselves in the ass for whatever it is they could have done to keep Honda, because Honda has proven to be part of why Red Bull were even able to get the championships they got. Honda and Adrian Newey, and those two things are gone. So here it is now. We're going to see what Aston Martin can do with Honda and Adrian Newey. And I think they are doing themselves a disservice by keeping Lance Stroll. They're doing themselves a disservice. Okay? Williams Racing is doing everything that we have possibly seen that they can do, because I'm pretty sure there are a lot of other things to do. And don't forget, it's April. March is coming up. We're going to be looking for these cost cap results to be soon, so we can see what these teams have done and who's breached. But Williams are making good decisions, and good decisions are paying out for them. They've dropped off the dead weight in a bad driver. They've surveyed the landscape on what kind of driver they can put in next to Alex Albon to improve their opportunities on track. They got Carlos Sainz. They got James Vowles. He's turned and he's riding the ship. They have a Mercedes power unit, and it's said that next season, Mercedes might be looking good in the new era of regulations to come, which is why Mercedes is campaigning that we should not be changing this. And I agree with Mercedes. These teams have already invested a lot in the development, getting ready for said regulations to be in said order, and for them to go and change it, which would seem like they would be more benefiting Red Bull Racing and Max Verstappen, is unfair. No, these regulations are going to stay that way. 083 in the super chat says Adrian Newey is going to make a crazy good car. But the real question is, can Lance get the most out of the car? And he says nope. And you know what, brother? I agree. And you know what? I think that's poll worthy, brother. I think we should poll that and see what other people think. All right. Let's see what other people think. All right, I got two questions. Poll in the chat. Don't dance on it, just vote on it. But if you want to dance on it, make sure you get $1 for that tip. That poll can be hazardous. So, yeah, I think Aston Martin need to pay very close attention to what Williams are doing, because Williams, I'm absolutely enjoying seeing Williams. I'm absolutely enjoying seeing Sainz come up and starting to get a better understanding of the car and finish in better position. And I'm hoping that that continues through the rest of the season, because I'm going to tell you right now, I would like to see, and it might be a far cry. It might be a big hope. It might be a big ask. Might be a big ask. But honestly, I know it's a big ask. It is big, but it's a big ask, such a big ask that I don't think it's going to happen, but it could happen. I would like to see them maintain and keep that 5th place standing. That is what I would like to see. I don't think they're going to catch Ferrari, because I do believe Ferrari have a good possibility of making good on some of these developments. I'm not sold on Ferrari making such a car that they're going to be able to mount some championship standing yet, but it could happen. They could slide up until 3rd. I think they surely could do that, but they got a lot of things to get right. All right. They got a lot of things to get right. And I'm talking about Ferrari, the team. And of course, Lewis has to still get acclimated with the car. Incredible Facts Quest in the super chat says, but did Mercedes say that in past years? They did. But let's also be fair to Mercedes and say this. Who got the turbo hybrid era right? Incredible Facts Quest. I would ask you that. When it came down to power unit regulations changing again and the turbo hybrid area came about, what team got that right more so than other teams? I'd say Mercedes got that turbo hybrid area right. The turbo hybrid era, Mercedes dominated, bro. They dominated in there. And here it is now with another power unit, pretty much power unit change. I'm not counting Mercedes out on developing a power unit that's gonna perform well, because they nailed it that time. So maybe they nail it again. And Alpine's taking on the Mercedes power unit. So evidently there's something that they saw there to say, you know what? We're going to leave being a works team and become a customer team. What team gives us, what power unit is going to give us the better opportunity coming up 2026 if we look at all the information that we have right now before us? And they chose Mercedes. They could have went Ferrari. They could have went Honda maybe if Honda was going to do something, but they chose Mercedes. So I'm just saying, maybe Mercedes have something going for themselves in this new era that's coming up 2026. They're not doing bad this season either, bro. Incredible Facts Question. If you think about it, Mercedes is not doing horrible this season. Now, we're still questioning whether they've worked out the heating issue that really did hold them back, as well as their poor aerodynamic design of that car was hideous as far as performance. It looked great, looked good, looked intriguing, but on paper, points, and performance, Mercedes developed a bum car for 3 seasons, and it showed. So we're going to have to see what happens now. And that's a very good point too, Sylvia Witt Kelly. But this situation with the regs being changed and them trying to, I don't think they should. I'm not going to say the only, but the people who have been crying most are the people who always cry the most when they're going to be on equal footing amongst competition, and that's Red Bull, Christian Horner, and Max Verstappen. They're complaining. And while they're complaining, it really disgusts me that they complain because they have an unfair advantage across the teams. They literally have 2 teams, 4 cars, and 4 drivers at their disposal. What does that mean? What other team can decide to say, you know what, let's test something with the other team that won't impact our A team, and if it actually works, we'll go ahead and deploy it on our A team. Other teams don't have that luxury. It's an unfair luxury that Red Bull has. Other teams have to say, which one of these drivers are we going to possibly hold back so that we can see if this new package is going to work without hampering the other driver? And if it doesn't work, we have to go backwards. If it does work, we'll go ahead and put it on the other driver's car. Red Bull have an unfair advantage across these teams. And it's something that the FIA and the sporting world regulation should kick in and say, you know what, you can't do this anymore. Red Bull's Red Bull. This other team has to be sold to somebody completely unrelated to you. That's really what should happen. And you know something else, we're going to make another video for this. We'll make another video for the Red Bull situation. This is about Aston Martin. Aston Martin right now, while compiling and adding to their arsenal, it's almost, I don't know how many of you are car people. I don't know how many of you have car builds. I'm a car guy, so maybe this may or may not hit for you. And if not, I'll try to do it in a couple of different ways. But if you go and you add an upgraded header to your car, your engine, you're going to put big tube headers on there, right? You're going to get a big dog intake. You're going to get a big intake, bring in more air, right? You're going to get an intake manifold to harness all that air you're bringing in to ignite that combustion to give you more horsepower. You're going to get big tube headers because you want to get that combustion out. But then you go and get a 1.5-inch exhaust. So you're going to bring in all this air to get all this combustion in the engine, and then you're going to put on a 1.5-inch exhaust. Guess what you just did? You just bottlenecked and choked up all your performance because your ass can't fart it out. It's going to be backed up. And that's what Lance Stroll is to Aston Martin. Honda, big boy headers. Adrian Newey, big boy intake. Lawrence Stroll with the money, big boy intake manifold. Lance Stroll, 1.5-inch exhaust. You're killing your performance of your team. Killing the performance of your team. It's just, they better take a note from Williams Racing. They need to get Felipe in that seat. At this point in time, I'm really unclear of how they don't understand giving Felipe a couple of race weekends is not a bad idea. I mean, we're 7th in the constructor championship standings. We're 7th. We only have 10 points. I do not understand why they don't say, you know what, Lance, you're going to sit out this weekend. We're going to let Felipe get a free practice sessions in. We're going to let him get quali in, and we're going to do that for at least a couple of rounds. We want to see what, if anything, can Felipe do for the team. And you want to know why I think they don't do that? Because if they do that and Felipe knocks it out of the park, Felipe Drugovich gets points, Felipe Drugovich makes it into Q3 more often than not, then Lawrence Stroll has to face the criticism of the world to say, why in the hell would you go and put Lance Stroll back in the seat and Felipe back at reserve driver? He doesn't want to do that. It's almost similar to as if you have a veteran quarterback, right? You draft a rookie quarterback, you let that rookie quarterback start, or you don't, right? Because if you got him and he's a top first 2-3 round draft pick, first 2-3 pick in the first round, all your fans want you to get that rookie quarterback, that star quarterback on the field. And especially if your veteran isn't performing, they are going to start hollering for you to put the rookie quarterback in. Let's see what he's got. And right now, that's what you got. You got an outcry. We want to see what Felipe Drugovich has got. He damn well deserves the seat. He's an F2 champion. We know he can drive. So Lawrence Stroll is smart enough to know, but not smart enough to make the decision. I don't want to say he's not smart enough to make the decision. He's smart enough to know, but he doesn't have the heart to make the decision to bench his son. And this is where sometimes family and business do not mix. This is an example of why family and business don't mix. Because he is unable to make a vital decision that will assist his team in getting or fighting for a championship the best of their ability. That's that face that Lawrence Stroll is making right there is the stink of his son stinking it up in Formula One. He can't walk up and down the grid without smelling the stench of his son stinking up Formula One. That's why his face is like that. It stinks. It stinks. Hey, it's just, it's unfortunate. It's an unfortunate situation, but it is what it is, and this is what we get to watch. And this is one of the things that are going to be talked about because it should be talked about. It's criminal. To me, it's criminal. He's being held up. He's been held up for several seasons now. Felipe Drugovich has been held up for several seasons now. Do we all understand this? Do we all understand how horrible it must be for Felipe Drugovich, who has literally been in Formula One for 4 seasons, I believe. And he's not had the opportunity to be a true number 2 driver even after being an F2 champion. He's at least been in, I think, 3 or 4 seasons, and he's not had the opportunity to go out on track and get his first GP and literally show the world what he can do. That must be frustrating. I've been dealing with my medical situation, and I haven't been able to do the things I've wanted to do since January, and it drives me crazy. I could only imagine what it's doing for Felipe to know what he can probably do for the team, and while he can do it, they're not letting him do it. They're letting Felipe Drugovich do nothing. Absolutely nothing, really. Let him in for a couple of testing, maybe some free practice. This is crazy. This is crazy. It's absolutely horrendous. Horrendous. This is what he's been allowed to do for 4 seasons now. 3rd driver for testing. It's horrible. It's horrible. But I really do hope his day comes. I really do hope that, I really do hope, indeed a good driver. Indeed a good driver. F2 champion. I would hope that, and even then it's better late than never is how it can be said. But I would hope that if they get Aston Martin gets Honda, Adrian Newey, and all of this that they're trying to put together actually is realized, and Alonso starts getting podiums while Lance Stroll does not again, because it's already happened once where Alonso got 8 podiums and Lance Stroll didn't get not one single podium. I would hope that they would say, you know what? It's probably time for us to let this go. The last time Lance Stroll was on podium was 2020, 5 years ago, with Racing Point. 2020, 5 years ago, insecure in Racing Point. That's the last podium he got. And he's never been higher than 3rd. That's the last. He's got 3 in his career. 3 in his career. That is what they are accepting. They're not even accepting mediocrity. They're accepting bottom, low barrel type situation. 083 says Felipe is getting bad advice from his manager. Aston Martin is destroying his F1 career. He needs to get away from Aston ASAP. I agree, 083. I completely agree. I agree with you, brother. He does. He definitely needs new management. Any management that allows you to sit there like that while the other driver is performing hideously and it's the owner's son, nah, we got to get you out of here. We got to get you, either we got to get you out of here or they have to pay a big enough bag for you to sit here. It's got to be one of the two, and it can't be in between. I got to be making what he's making for you to have my talent on hold, or you got to go ahead and let me go. Yeah, whatever Lance Stroll's making, you need to be giving me that, because I know I'm a better driver than him. And if you think I'm worth holding on this long, you got to pay me to do it. Yeah, his management definitely needs to step up. Definitely needs to step up. For real. And I'm I think that I think that Felipe is a guy who probably says to himself, I'm just trying to stay in good standings. And I want to say his manager, who is his manager? Who is Felipe's manager? Was it Buttons? I think I want to say it might at one point been Buttons, but it might be somebody else at this point in time Felipe might have for management. But yeah, whoever his manager is definitely needs to up their game, or he needs to fire them immediately. That's how I'll see it. But anyway, hey, Miami USGP weekend is coming. Aston Martin needs to do better, and Williams Racing is doing better. All right, we're going to bring about the Red Bull conversation soon. We're going to do that for sure. Probably have that this week. Peace and love to you all. Thank you all for the positive vibes, healthy wishes. It is coming. Slow progress is better than no progress, and that's where I am right now. But hey, better progress than the last few months, and I'm ready. I am ready to get this thing kicked off. I will see you all soon on the next live video. Comment below what you think about Aston Martin, what you think about Williams, where you think they should do. What do you think Felipe Drugovich should do? And I will see you soon, all right? Peace and love. Wolfpack out.